What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on these analysis. We're going to be checking out MSTR and Bitcoin today. So we're currently sitting at 308.95, and after hours we closed at 309.06 on the week. So we've been speaking about this previously, where we were talking about going sideways until we finally make a decision, and it looks like we ended up breaking to the downside instead of to the upside. And now that we actually closed underneath this structure, it's increasing the likelihood of us to retest this structure and continue on down to further levels. If we were to break this wick here, that's going to increase our odds of having that cleaner move down to lower levels. This is probably the most likely target if we were to start to break this structure here, but I would anticipate a little bit more downside if we were to push up, retest, and hold that retest. So we could always get a green candle, like a nice engulfing candle or something, right back into this structure and start this same area again. So we could pretty much have a fake out and push back into this structure. That's always possible. But like I said, once you close underneath a structure, it's increasing your likelihood of a retest and a continuation down if you were to hold the retest. So be on the lookout for that. On the daily, you can kind of see how that played out. This candle was pretty bearish, and then we had a little bit of a move up, very, very small, 2.78% today. Nothing too drastic. But then again, Bitcoin has been, slowly bleeding out. And of course, that's going to be magnified on MSTR. So we've been speaking about a bear flag for some time now. And I think the target was like 286 or something like that. And it looks like we're getting kind of close, not exact. It was down to like 282, 284, somewhere in that ballpark. We made it down to 292 so far. It looks like it's trying to play out. We'll see if the move completes in this upcoming week or the following week. We'll see if Bitcoin continues to show weakness, which we can kind of demonstrate on tether dominance later in this video. We were talking about that inverse head and shoulders, and that we were saying that inverse head and shoulders on tether dominance could have been an early signal for this move down for MSTR and Bitcoin. On the SMAs, we're still underneath the 50. We pushed up to it, found rejection after closing underneath it, and we held the push down. So we are anticipating potential further moves down, and the same thing here with the 20 and the 200. We actually pushed up to the 200, got rejected, continued down, and the same thing with the 20. Underneath the 20, pushed up and fell right back underneath, and they're holding price down, kind of suppressing it at the moment. On the weekly RSI, we lost our structure that we were holding at around 44, 45, and now we're currently sitting at around 40. And it looks like we're having a continued move down and losing strength on the RSI. Here on the daily, it looks like we're trying to find some kind of bottom here. We have a little bit of a structure there, potentially trying to find a double or a triple bottom, maybe an inverse head and shoulders. We'll see how it plays out. You can kind of see that here. If you were to draw this out, you could make this as a one part of that W and some kind of double bottom here, or depends on how you want to draw it, because you can make it an inverse head and shoulders as well. So you can have your left shoulder, your head, right shoulder, and then that could signal upside for MSTR potentially on the RSI at least. We'll be, of course, keeping an eye out for that. And here on the MACD for the weekly, showing a continuation of downside. Momentum is increasing to the downside, and we're getting back into bearish territory. We were in bullish territory, and we've completely fallen off. And you can see the blue line has broken down into the bearish area, and the daily has been in bearish territory, creating higher highs, higher lows. But now we did get the blue flipping on the orange, and now we did get the green to flip back red here on this momentum scale here. In terms of Bitcoin on the weekly, we still have 2 days left in 1 hour. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that. And right now we're finding support off of the structure here at around 109. Yeah, 109 roughly. we slightly broke underneath that 108.6, and we found key support there, but not surprised because this was a major level of resistance and support previously. So we expected to have some kind of hold up before we make a decision whether we want to chop here and continue up or we don't want to fall through. I was expecting some kind of a slowdown in price to the downside. On the daily, we had a pretty major move after breaking this structure here. We had our wicks here that we were saying once we can break underneath that, that would start to increase downside potential to this next structure, and that's exactly what we saw. I did two little posts, like screenshots showing this in real time, so you can kind of see how that played out. And looks like it played out right now. We'll be watching it, of course, closely. And let's look at the SMAs here. We did fall underneath our 20-week, so that's pretty important. We want to stay above that. If we hold this close underneath here, expect some kind of retest and continuation down further. But, you know, we're not surprised that September has been bad. We were talking about this in July, how August and September are typically not the best months overall. August is normally so-so, and September is usually one of the worst months. So this isn't anything out of the ordinary. And we definitely started to believe it once we broke this nice little piece that we had. We had this nice structure being built, this nice trend line that was being established. And once we fell underneath it, it just seems like the momentum picked up drastically and we started to fall rapidly. And on the daily SMAs, we have the 20 and the 50. The 50 is about to push back over the 20 right now to the downside. And it looks like we found rejection. We broke underneath both of them, and they were confluence with the structure, both the 20 and the 50 and the structure, as a retest, as a ceiling, and continuation down. Now, in terms of global liquidity, we are still climbing. So you can see the previous high that we had was right there, and we've still been climbing pretty steadily. So I still am expecting some kind of upside. I don't know if it's going to be the last quarter where we just start to really ramp it up. You know, October, November, December, we'll be watching, maybe even early Q1. So we're going to keep an eye out for that. I think we can still see some upside. Hopefully we can break above these wicks, get above this key structure that's been established all the way back from the 2021 highs. Let me go on the monthly so it's easier to see. So that trend line goes all the way back over here. And if we can break above that structure, hold it, find some support here and hold that, then I think we can touch this midline here, this dotted line, for our potential top for the cycle or some kind of local major top. That's kind of what we're looking for here on Bitcoin. MSTR, you can see MSTR divided by IBIT has been bleeding out for some time now, ever since May 5th. That week, we've just been absolutely bleeding out very bad. And the moves have just continued on and on and on. And we'll see if the momentum continues carrying us to lower levels. Of course, we were saying as we broke underneath this key structure here, breaking underneath for a retest, that would more than likely signal a move to the next structure, which we almost touched. We went down to 4.74, and the next structure is at 4.65. So we'll see if that ends up playing out completely. And yeah, MSTR has just been severely underperforming IBIT, and you can see that here in this piece. Ever since November 2024, it's just been pretty much bleeding out. We had one pretty much last rally from February 2025 to about May 2025, and ever since then it's just been falling down. And we found resistance off the 20, and that supported price down to even lower targets and valuations. And I don't know if it's going to turn around just yet or anytime soon. The next thing that we have is tether dominance. So we were saying what we wanted to see. We wanted to see a move down to this trend line here. We wanted to see a push up, rejection, and continuation down. And we ended up getting the other scenario, because we always talk about both scenarios on this channel. We ended up getting that head and shoulders that we spoke about. We have a left shoulder, the head, and then we were saying a right shoulder could be forming, which could potentially signal upside on tether dominance, which would signal weakness on Bitcoin. So if you stay tuned on all the videos, you'll remember that we were talking about that, and it looks like that ended up playing out, and we got that weakness on Bitcoin that we were anticipating based off of this pattern. You know, of course, either scenario could have played out. Not saying that I knew it was going to come, but I knew it was going to be one of the two scenarios where it's going to be that bear flag playing out, where we could get the nice move down to the blue line, like a clean move after a nice reset here on price, or it was going to be that inverse head and shoulders where we see weakness. This is going to be one of the two. And it looks like we got the inverse head and shoulders. We pushed up. Now we're finding rejection. We still have 2 days left. So if we can close above the structure, then that's going to increase even more likelihood of us seeing more downside on Bitcoin. Hopefully not. Hopefully we just find rejection and hold underneath the structure. And then the next target we can talk about is a rejection off of here and push back down to the structure over here. So that's kind of what we're keeping our eye out for on tether dominance. We are running into the 50-week SMA, which is a very, very powerful level. That's in confluence with this key structure here. So those two together should have enough firepower to push tether dominance down, which would signal some kind of upside on Bitcoin, because remember, tether dominance represents risk on to risk off and vice versa. So as this is going up, it's showing risk on and capital flowing to risk off investments. And as it goes down, it's the complete opposite. And we are also at our 200-day SMA, which is very, very powerful. So those two SMAs combined should be enough firepower to suppress price and push it back down. Hopefully, of course, it doesn't have to play out, because we can push above, hold that, and now that's acting as a floor. But right now, it's still a ceiling, which is a good sign, and we want to keep that momentum to the downside. Now here on the Dixie, the DXY, we're speaking about this, saying this long-term trend line being established, holding as support. We were saying it's going to be pretty hard to break underneath the structure, and if we do, it's going to be short-term. More than likely, we're going to see some kind of a move to the upside, I would imagine, because this is a very, very powerful structure, and we've already touched it twice, and we've catapulted off of that level there, and now we're starting to see higher prices on the dollar, which more than likely tends to result in risk off appetite for the stock market and crypto in general. So that's why we could potentially be seeing a little bit of downside or just sideways chop on Bitcoin overall. If the dollar drops and continues to drop, then that would more than likely signal the green light for risk on, for at least a continuation of that risk on appetite that we've been seeing recently. So we're going to keep an eye out for this. And on the SMAs, good thing we're right at the 20-week SMA. Hopefully it serves as resistance, as we've already seen that happen multiple times. But at the same time, the more you touch something, the weaker it gets. So be aware of that. We could get that break above and hold it and use it as a floor, since we've found rejection already 4 or 5 times off of this structure. So be aware of that. And on the daily, we have flipped the 20 and the 50 from a ceiling to a floor, and now we're using it as support to continue higher. So remember, it usually happens on smaller time frames than it happens later on the bigger time frame. So it'll happen on the 4-hour first. You'll see the SMAs flip from ceiling to floor. Then you'll see the daily. The SMAs will flip from ceiling to floors, and then you'll finally see it on the weekly. That's usually how it goes. It usually trickles back and forth from time frame to time frame. But I am expecting, upside long term on the dollar over the next, year and a half, 2 years. I expect us to see some kind of movement. We can still go down to lower levels, but overall, I think the trend will slowly trend upward, and then we'll probably get some kind of spike. Maybe if we see a major recession, you can see like in 2022, this whole piece right here where we saw a pretty rough time in the market. Could potentially be seeing something like that in the next, year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. No exact time frame, but I do feel like it will be coming as the dollar starts to spike up. Tether dominance will spike up, and we'll more than likely see some kind of weakness. That's all I have for you guys. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.